Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I come to you from the land of Equestria. There's ponies everywhere. It's kind of freaking me out. Okay, moving on. Today's lesson is Accentuate the Negative 1.3. This is the very first lesson in negative numbers. Do not get overwhelmed. Do not panic. In fact, I recommend that at the very beginning of your notebook, wherever you're starting this unit, your notes for this unit, you write in big, bold letters, don't panic. Because this unit, this book, this idea of integers will shake you to the very core. Or you'll just find it really interesting and fun, which is what I found it to be. So, our learning target is that I can interpret the addition of integers by relating values to real-world situations. Now, just to double check, these items right here, the lesson page 12 through 13, A through E, and the ACE problems 20 through 30, you can cross out this connections part, but 42 through 43, they all need to go into your planner along with the learning targets, so that not only do you have what you're doing, but why we're learning it. Okay, let's continue now. Okay, here are our notes. You do not need to have the awesome picture of Spock and evil Spock. I'll get to that in a moment. But what we do need to have is lesson 3.1 notes, and maybe having an ATN for accentuate the negative should be at the beginning of that. Our page number is 12 through 13, and we should have name, date, and crew on this notebook. It'll make it much easier to return your notebook to you. And what we want to put down is our very first vocab word, which should probably be underlined. Integers. Integers are a word that we use to describe all rational numbers that have a value greater than and less than 0. So an example would be positive and negative numbers. Up until this point, we've been working with whole numbers and counting numbers, numbers that have a value greater than 0. We start at 0, we work our way up. We're now introducing the idea of there being negative numbers, numbers less than 0. Now, if you are like me and have a credit card that you cannot stop using, you understand what it means to have less than 0, to have money you owe people. And also, if, like me, you're from Wisconsin, you understand how integers work. You understand that we get to 0 on the thermometer and we just keep going down, and you cross your fingers until we get down to that negative 40 degrees wind chill, and that means we get a snow day. So there's two ways of thinking about positive and negative numbers. One way is that negatives are less than 0. Like you owe me $5 would be described as -5, or 30 below 0 would be -30. Both of these are really great examples of how to think about negative numbers. And it's a very simple way to think about negative numbers. Another way we can think about negative numbers is negative numbers as the opposite of that number. And that might sometimes be a much easier way to look at things. And that's why I've got Spock and evil Spock right here. Is think of it as an evil twin or antimatter. For instance, if I have -5, I'm really saying the opposite of having 5. Or -10 is the opposite of having 10. Now, why is that useful? When we get to a problem like -5 plus +5, well, that -5 being the opposite of 5, well, what happens? They hit each other, and just like antimatter, we end up getting 0. Okay? The negative numbers cancel out positive numbers. And likewise, positive numbers cancel out negative numbers. They are a reverse, an opposite of their positive counterparts. That's one way to look at it. I digress. This will become more important later on. So really, what we want to do for our notes, though, is using a number line. And this is what's going to be important on your lesson today. Let's say it is negative 3 degrees Fahrenheit, and the temp changes by negative 10. Okay, it gets really, really cold. But then the sun comes out, and then it changes by positive 20. What is the new temp? Well, a way to arrange this is by setting up a number line. And instead of having 0 way at the left here, like we typically would, we're going to put 0 in the middle. And everything going to the right is positive, everything going to the left is negative. And it increases in negative, so we have -1, -2, -3, and so on. And it ascends in the other direction, +1, +2, +3, and so on. So let's say our temperature was at 3 degrees. Well, it starts at 3 and it drops by 10 degrees. So if it drops by 10 degrees, I go 1, 2, 3 places to get to 0. And then I've got to go an additional 7 degrees because the 7 and the 3 need to add up to that value of -10. So I would be at -7